I'm going to deviate from my questions and talk about something that I don't think I've really talked about in my packet work directly, but is really influencing and kind of shaping the landscape from where I'm continuing my academic work, and that is abolition. I think I think that I see I actually did make this question. I'm looking at it. It's right on top of my stack, and I think this is a two-part question, and I think the first one is, how does and can occupational therapy inhabit an abolitionist terrain? So I understand abolition as a centuries-long social movement that really began when I think the abolitionist movement, I don't know when the word came, but the concepts of it arose the same time that colonial capitalism kind of evolved and manifested on Earth in Europe. And I think abolition really popularized, in anti-slavery movement work in the United States. And I think, the other day I was talking with Sharon about this new residency, and she was asking me were there any things you would like to, would you like to, have some spaces or anything that you want to talk about? And I said, well, I don't know if I'm ready to do this, but I would at some point really love to talk about abolition. And Sharon was like, that's such an old word. And I don't think I really ever, until she said that, I don't think I've really thought about the age of abolition. And I was like, it kind of is this sentient, ageless space to me that, demands the dismantling of capitalism and colonial sociality, colonizing sociality. And I think, coming out of anti-slavery moments, abolitionists, slavery ended, and that power, colonial capitalist power, dissolved into all these other systems. It, continued in our military, it continued in the church, it continued in the maintenance of the state, and it kind of disappeared into social services, and disappeared into our education system a little bit, and and disappeared into redlining, who can buy a house and where, and disappeared into the police, and disappeared into everyday public infrastructures. And abolition, when Sharon was just like, this is such an old word, and I'm hearing my son talk about it, and she's like, it's coming back around. And I think that she's right. I think that abolition is this becoming popularized because of social media, because of uprising, because of movement work, because there is this cognitive affect happening, and like more people are having access to this shared language, that necessitates, you know, the dismantling of all of these systems that uphold colonial capitalism. And two, a part of abolition that I think is, you know, like the next chapter in it is imaginary and even more like profound and incredible. And it's the creative work of abolition, you know? So it's like, okay, like our education system needs to be dismantled, and, you know, like as a species, like we are provocative and curious and love learning, and people need to be trained in skills to like do all of these things that we do in society, so we function collectively and communally. And like, what does a reclaimed and decolonized abolition centered education system look like? If you know, if we are having, if schools can return to being self-determined of their communities, Black folks are back in leadership and structuring and functioning and teaching Black children, if Indigenous folks are, you know, like resourced to teach Indigenous children, you know, when the resources are coming back into the communities, what do these school programs look like? And what does this learning process look like? And what do those relationships look like? And what is like thriving in that center? And I think this kind of like creative and visionary part of abolition is just like so fucking exciting to me. Excuse my language. And you know, I think that it's like abolition is like, you know, destructive, and it's also this place of like really deep, incredible imagining and creative work. And I think occupational therapy intersects with abolition, because I see occupational therapy as this really self-determined medical relationship between a practitioner and a patient, a client. And like, you know, that practitioner is coming into relationship with clients with resources and devotion, and like really humanizing a person, and like saying, what do you need? And like, this is your experience of the world, and this is how you're inhibited from like engaging in the world in the way that you want. What skills, like what tools, what exercises, you know, like what services do you need to get to do that thing? And I think it's so like powerful, you know. And I learned about it from, excuse me, I'm getting Tinder. This is cool. Thank you. I learned about occupational therapy from when I was teaching. I was a first grade teacher's assistant from like 2005 to 2009. And this woman came in. Several of the teachers that I worked with was, you know, just like really, really skilled and resourced person for 5 to 7 year olds who are ID'd on the autism spectrum, and some of them had some of our students really struggled with fine and gross motor skill stuff. And so once a week, this occupational therapist came in. She was assigned from the city to come in and do motor skill training with these young people. And Deontay is the like student that is coming to mind right now. Deontay, I think it will be is like 22, and when he was my student, he was, was just like a pretty introverted and quiet young person and couldn't hold a pencil. And I think, Deontay was just like really couldn't figure out how to hold this tool to write with it. And so he was like holding it like really gently at the top and really struggling to write, to make letters and draw shapes. And her name is Evelyn, my grandmother's name. Evelyn came in weekly and was just like working individually with Deontay in holding objects that were like pencils, like a paintbrush, a pencil, a crayon, and just like really working with him to get the muscle and motor function to hold and do like the delicate muscle work of writing his name, that D. And so like when he like finally got holding the pencil in a way where he had like a maximum control of the lead on the paper and making that, upward stroke, and then the round coming back down and meeting the bottom of the D, like that took a long time, and it was really delicate and patient work. And I think that kind of devotion to a person learning their body and like is really, really beautiful. And I think that it just is like, I don't know that I necessarily like want to work with first graders. I don't know that I necessarily want to like work specifically with, folks in the autism community. Like I'm not at a place where I'm saying, where I've identified the demographic of people that I want to work with, but I know that this is work that I feel really excited to do. And I also know that like being as relational a person I am, I know that this is work that I trust I could be really good at. And part of that knowing that I could be good at this work is really built on my like many years of doing like deep listening activist work in anti-racist Black feminist community. And I understand abolition as a core principle of Black feminist world building.